Hey everyone, and welcome to Backseat Sports. I'm Josh, and that is Caleb. And guys, we got another video here. So first of all, sorry about being a little bit late. We're a little bit behind this week, but this is going to be like a long form video. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. It's going to be a pretty long one. We're just going to talk kind of like a podcast again and just go at it, slice it out. What's going on, Caleb?
Well, this week his sponsor is brought to you by Go Big Red Wine. When you are depressed and sad, just, drink some wine. You'll feel a lot better. I'm feeling good because of it.
But yeah, we're going to need the wine for sure. I mean, my goodness, basically for this video was going to be like a reaction to the Indiana, and then we're going to go through the predictions, and then answer some of your questions from the community post at the end of the video. So hopefully you guys enjoy it, and we're going to get into it. I cannot wait.
Indiana, they're really weird old head coach. A lot of players falling on the ground, being injured this week, trying to slow down our fast-paced offense. It was a rough week for Nebraska, 31 points. Had me feeling a little bit better. I didn't feel as just depressed as I did after the Minnesota loss. Obviously a 38-31 loss to Indiana doesn't feel great, though. Obviously, nobody's like, yay, but I feel like there are some positives to be detracted this week from the loss, and it's not hopeless like it felt when it was against Minnesota. But man, Scott Frost pissed. He cussed in the halftime. No, not
calm
Bo Pelini.
Down, Scotty.
Yeah,
Whoa.
He was upset. He had to have a meeting to apologize to the team.
Yeah, he was dressing up as Bo Pelini for Halloween. That's for sure.
He was.
Oh my goodness.
It came
yeah, this video's coming out on Halloween. Fantastic.
Woo-hoo. Watch a scary movie, or just watch an old Nebraska game. I mean, you'll be equally as scared.
You'll be just as scared.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, ouch. Burn. Self-burn.
Yeah. My Halloween tradition is to always go back and watch that 2012 Wisconsin game. Gets me every time.
Yeah.
The jump scares gets me right out of my seat. Oh, I'm terrified. Ooh.
So first, we want to talk about the positives about the Indiana game, because again, there was some things to latch onto. The first one being that we have two pretty good quarterbacks here below Martinez. Seeing McCaffrey was pretty fun besides one snap to actually get to see him a little bit out there. He was 5 of 6 passing, had that nice touchdown pass to Manoa.
Yeah, he really did look good.
Yeah, 12 runs for 76 yards. Man, that was pretty nice. And then Vedra also played good, 14 of 16 passing, 7 runs for 21 yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns for him. So our offense really did look good and under Vedra really fast, and it felt like McCaffrey stepped right in and did a really good job. If we had the same amount of depth at quarterback as we did at other positions, I would be feeling very good about Nebraska football right now. Because man, our quarterbacks are pretty nice.
Alabama, here we come.
I think most teams in the Big Ten would happily take our second and third string QBs. So that's a positive. And it was nice to see our offense move again during that Minnesota game. It was really confusing, I think, for all Nebraska fans to see us only score 7 points and just stall out as much as we did. Outworked by Minnesota, it felt gross. And so to see us kind of push the ball, our offense not have too many hiccups. I really didn't see any too high of snaps this game, so that kind of felt like it was better again.
We ran some direct snaps.
And the only sack that we allowed, too, was against when they had that safety blitz and Mills didn't pick him up, and that was the fumble play that really cost us.
That's a whole nother story.
That second quarter really, but that's in the negatives. But besides that, we only gave up 1 sack, which is pretty good too. So there was a lot of good things to see on the offensive side of the ball for sure.
Not as many defensively.
Yeah.
Which really, really sucks. I wish we had more to say positively about the defense, but they did not play their best game by any means, and obviously the turnovers hurt us. But negatively, there's a lot to say. I think we can get into it. We couldn't get pressure, and I think a lot of the coaches talked about that. They just really struggled up front in the defensive line there overall as a squad. I mean, as a team, they talked about the leadership, and there's a lot of talk about the culture after the game. Whether or not that had a direct effect on the game or not, it's hard to say, but Darian Daniels in the morning of, if you guys heard in the press conferences, kind of got on the team for having a bad mentality going into the game. Maybe that's part of the performance was definitely lacking on the defensive side as a whole. And what we thought was, the better side of our team, our secondary, kind of played a pretty poor game, but it wasn't directly all on them, considering the linebackers had a big part of that cake when it came to giving up big-time plays in the passing game. Again, it's another game where our linebacking core got exposed. And now back-to-back games where
Exposed.
Minnesota really showed it, and then Illinois furthermore showed it. It's hard for me to feel any type of positive way about our linebacking core after these last 2 games where they looked absolutely awful.
Terrible.
And I don't know if it's going to be able to be improved even at all moving forward in the next few games.
Shenander has his hands full. And, he said there was, in his press conference this week, he said there was no short-term fixes, it was all long-term stuff. And we really did see the coaches kind of blame the players a lot.
This was the first time where the coaches kind of
blame the players.
Put a little blame on the players, yeah.
I didn't feel like a little. It felt like a lot. Coach Shenander also said he puts the players in their best position possible. So he's really he's shoveling the blame onto the players.
That's like Bo Pelini's cup of tea right there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they just didn't
execute, guys.
We had the right
every
plan.
Game.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, just execute.
And I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like we could figure out something. But there's a lot of problems. I mean, the over pursuing, the missing holes, being in the wrong zone, not picking up the right guy. That stuff doesn't just feel like linebacker stuff. I mean, that's stuff that you can fix in the coaching. So I have a tough time saying this is all on players. You got to find a way to break it down for it to make sense for your guys. That's why they said going back to the fundamentals. Well, clearly you didn't do it enough because our players still don't understand the defensive scheme you're trying to run. The zone has really burned us. Those crossing routes absolutely murdered us on defense. Cam Taylor talked about it in his press conference, how WAP just absolutely murdered us in those situations. And he said he was nice. He wasn't really the one covering him that much. But when he did, he's like, we still need to be able to make stops. But, man, our linebackers just look so bad in pass coverage and in a rush defense. We'll just miss holes sometimes. They miss where they're supposed to go. It's a two-way street, and it's a partnership as a coach and a player. And so there better be some quick fixes or else we're not going to win many more games.
I'm definitely more on the side of the blames more on the players than the coaches. I truly believe this front seven is just incredibly unathletic. And when you're trying to play a 3-4, the definition of a 3-4 is to have athletic linebackers especially, and we do not have them on this team.
They're not fast for sure.
No. That's the problem. And they're definitely not pass defenders whatsoever. They might qualify as run stoppers, but they can't get back in pass coverage. And when you got a front three that really can't get pressure on their own and you have to bring blitzes, you're suddenly leaving those unathletic linebackers in a lot of space, and that's where you get exposed. And we've been seeing that against Minnesota and against Indiana now, and against any decent offensive line where in pass protection, Indiana and Purdue both have very good offensive lines. Rush offense, completely different story. Their offensive lines are terrible. Weird to see offensive lines differ so much like they do, but both of those teams do. Indiana didn't have to run the ball whatsoever against us, and they smacked us offensively. So I'm just really worried. I thought we would be fine against one-dimensional teams because we'd be able to put that focus on one side of the ball or one type of play. But in this game, that obviously was not the case, and we still were getting gashed. So that definitely worries me, and that's why I don't think it's a short-term fix, because they're just lacking athletes in the front seven.
I agree with you in the coverage sense in a lot of ways that you can't really hide that much. Our linebackers are slow, so when you're going to put them in pass situations. But I also see a lot of form stuff too, like when we're running in between the gaps and they're missing holes, or they just stop moving their feet, they don't run through the player. Stuff like that, or you're not being able. How are you not being able to? Our linebackers, when they're blitzing, need to be able to shed blocks to get to the quarterback. How many linebacker sacks have we seen this year? Like, I feel like almost none, because the second they get picked up by a block, they're just.
But is that on the coaches or on the players? I think it's on the players.
I think that's both. I mean, again, I feel like filling the gaps, knowing how to move your feet as a linebacker, being able to use speed moves to shed a block on an offensive lineman. I feel like that's.
But it's impossible to know if they're not coaching it or if the players just aren't learning it, Yeah, I mean, like maybe they're coaching it and the players aren't
figure out
picking
a
it up.
way. I mean, like, these guys are D1 athletes with 3-4 star guys. Like, they played football before, You're not teaching a 3-year-old. Like, these guys aren't dumb. There's definitely blame to be on both sides. And again, another problem of our defense is on third down and third and longs, we just couldn't get off the field. We were doing well on first and second down, and then third, we just absolutely fall apart. I feel like every drive, we get to a third and long, third and medium situation.
I mean, yeah.
And just give it up. The third downs are where that's supposed to be the best plays on defense that we have.
Indiana was 7 for 14 on third and 2 for 2 on fourth.
Yeah,
So
that just can't
that hurts.
happen.
There's definitely issues with the defense. And again, it's going to come down to that front seven and the linebackers and how they can bounce back. I think we're going to talk about that a little bit more at the end of the video. Offensively for Nebraska, I think we need to spend a little more time on Vedral and McCaffrey just a little bit because, again, I think I was really happy with McCaffrey and how he played. I really liked what I saw there. I think he's definitely a bright spot for this offense and for the future. You know, we're in good hands for the next few years with Martinez, Vedral, and McCaffrey now. I'm feeling really, really good about that quarterback room, and we already talked about that. It's going to be interesting to see if there's any way that we can utilize that package. I think I'd be kind of interested to see some little Taysom Hill stuff. I'd be excited to see some of that type of stuff if they can make it happen. But, you know, that's for the future, obviously.
Speaking of that was one more kind of positive I wanted to say.
Play calling.
I've been critical about the offense, about being really
the lack of creativity.
About the lack of creativity, about how we felt conservative, not playing to win the game. And this was the first time in the Scott Frost era where I saw some plays that felt like, you know, we opened the playbook a little bit. Obviously, that Spielman to Vedral throw, stuff like that felt like, hey, we're trying to win the game here. We know that every game is really important, and that's part of respecting your opponents is, you know, having those trick plays. And I felt like we finally did that. And so I felt like, you know, hats off to the coaching staff there. I finally felt like we weren't just playing not to lose.
Not
we're
just
playing,
vanilla.
Yeah, we were playing to win a little bit.
It's just weird that it finally came out now. It doesn't really make sense. Like,
no.
Why wait till now to like kind of put in some flair into the offense? There was even more flair inside of the zone reads and the average offense that we were running. Not just the specific trick plays, but like there was actually some different motions and some misdirection, some like fake counter plays and things like that. Some direct snaps that I really, really liked, and I'm surprised we hadn't seen it all. It was like almost as if Frost was saving it for some like big time end of season run, but it's like, well, if we're not beating Indiana, if we're not beating Minnesota, why are we saving these plays? You know, I don't know. It's just weird that they weren't pulled out earlier in the season.
Agreed.
And maybe that's because he didn't have trust in the offensive line. And we have seen some improvement on the offensive line in this game. I thought they played a little bit better, but
it was
again,
against a bad defense at the same
Indiana's
way.
front seven has not been impressive this season.
Nope.
Though not horrible, not impressive. Again, against an average defense, we did play pretty decently offensively, especially on the offensive line. I'll be really looking for the growth this week in the Purdue game, and then we get the test against Wisconsin.
And speaking of Purdue, I mean, I think it's about time we hop into it. This week's game, Purdue, no big shock, they're 2-6 this year. Nebraska, while ESPN's FPI says we're the underdog, Vegas has us as the 3-point favorite at Purdue, so that's pretty good. So that means if we were here, that would be about a 6-point favorite. So
Vegas hasn't been that right about it this year, though.
Vegas is 1-7. Nebraska's 1-7 against the freaking spread.
That hurts.
So that means we've been favored, and Josh and I feel pretty good about it because Vegas is usually not wrong, and they've been wrong the whole year.
Good news, guys. There's only 5 other teams in the whole country that are in the same boat as us in 1-7 or worse. Yeah. So Vegas cannot figure us out this year, and neither can we.
Yeah.
So good stuff.
Yeah.
No Nebraska fan can figure us out. So 57.5 point over under, which I think is interesting. Middle of the road point spread, a little bit higher than average, I guess. But Purdue's definitely underperformed this year, which has been interesting to say the least. But again, they're playing without Elijah Sindler. They're playing without one of the standout players in the Big Ten, Rondale Moore. And it's going to be interesting to see how our team lines up against Purdue.
And at 57.5 points, that's right at about what each of our teams allow. We each allow almost, we each allow about 29 points per game, so it's like pretty much right on it. Obviously, let's talk about a little bit about Purdue really quick. They had a 38-31 loss to Minnesota, and that's the game that Moore and Sindler got hurt.
On the same play.
On the same play.
That's tragedy.
So about as unlucky as you can get for a team.
Yeah.
And I think Purdue would have probably won that game, and their season probably would look a lot different if that happened, and Minnesota's would look a lot different.
Oh, yeah.
Too.
Imagine if that play doesn't happen, you know?
Exactly. It'd just be a totally different team. Next, they lost 35-7 to Penn State. Again, that was their first game after losing their 2 cornerstone offensive players. Yeah. And, now a top 5 team right now, Penn State. That
loss doesn't look that bad.
No,
honestly.
Yeah. For what it is, not at all. And then they won 40-14 against Maryland.
This is the most surprising game of the year.
Which really kind of shocked us. Although they had a pick 6 during the game. And then a 26-20 loss to Iowa. Another respective loss against a top 25 team. Pretty close. Again, still no more Still no Sindler, so that's pretty good. And then just out of the blue, a loss, 24-6 lost against Illinois.
Illinois is feeling it apparently.
Yeah, after beating Wisconsin, they were like, we're not a one-hit wonder. We're keeping this ball rolling. And dude, Illinois, 4 wins. Play Rutgers this week. Play Northwestern this season.
No, they might be bowling.
If you go back to my predictions video, I did say Illinois has a really good chance to make a bowl game this year. I'm feeling pretty good about that. Not feeling very good about what I picked Nebraska to do, but Illinois, I was spot on.
Well, we're Illinois experts around here.
Yeah, Illinois experts. We know what's happening in Champaign.
Oh yeah, 100%. Purdue, they're in a weird situation right now. Their backup quarterback, who's been playing this season since the injury, Jack Plummer, no relation to Jake Plummer, which is pretty crazy.
We thought he would have one. Yeah,
I know. I'm like, earlier on in the year, I didn't even bother to check. I just assumed it was like a cousin or a brother or something, but literally no relation to him. He's definitely inexperienced. He shows that in games, and last week he played a really, really bad game against Illinois. He looked terrible. He got benched twice in the game and did not play a good game. He got benched after the pick six, then came back, and then got benched again, then came back. Not ideal. You don't love to see it. Not good stuff, but in certain parts of the game, it looks like he lacks confidence to throw the ball downfield. It was really windy in that game, not the best conditions, but he should have been able to hit some of those throws.
In the Big Ten once we hit November.
Yeah, it's like you're playing in the Big Ten, like you can't expect that, and so he wasn't playing. He just played a horrible game. But there's been games where he's looked really, really good, like against Maryland. He looked fantastic in that game. Based off how it's been going for Nebraska, we seem to give up pretty easy throws and make things pretty simple for quarterbacks.
Yep.
I mean, Aiden Smith played his best game of the year against us during the Northwestern game. And then last week, of course, Indiana's got a backup quarterback in, and he's dominating and tearing us apart. Right. So I'm only going to assume that we're going to see a pretty good Jack Plummer in this game, and we're going to give him enough underneath where he's able to be pretty confident and then take some shots downfield throughout the game.
Jack's a little bit more one-dimensional, again, but he's still sneaky enough that, again, just giant red flag. Nebraska will get burned by this week. That's a guarantee.
On third down.
It'll be third and 15. And he'll just have he'll have a red carpet. He'll be able to walk to the first down and then take a quick nap, check his iPhone, and then get another 5 yards. So it's just a pain that we're going to see this week from it. I think he'll be able to get some confidence. We'll definitely more see the Maryland, like Josh said. It's going to be more of the Maryland Jack Plummer than it is the Illinois Jack Plummer.
You'd only assume.
Yeah,
right.
We're Nebraska. We're allowing 415 yards a game right now. It's not a pretty sight. We wore our black jerseys, but it was kind of silly.
As an offense, Purdue isn't afraid to get under center. I mean, they mostly do play out of the spread. They run a lot of RPOs. They do that type of stuff, the usual for college football right now.
Yeah.
But they're not afraid to get under center and run some single eye formations and do what they do. So we'll see what they try to do in this game. I'm assuming it's supposed to be a pretty fair weather game in the 40s, so I'm assuming they're not going to be anything too crazy or too unusual. We should see that spread come to play still and see them try to get that ball to the outsides against our lackluster linebacking core, as we talked about.
On the bright side, he does have 9 touchdowns to 6 picks, and Purdue's averaging about 2 turnovers per game. So they're 105th in the country. Again, not saying much because Nebraska's right around that point too, but at least they'll be pretty even in that sense, hopefully. That's pretty nice. And their run is not very good. Actually, worse than Indiana's run. Their main running back, King Daru, has 289 rushing yards this year, 3 touchdowns. He's only averaging 3.1 yards average. They did play Penn State and Minnesota, but there was plenty of games where he could have boosted that yards per carry. So I think we're going to be okay in that. And, Mo Berry's a pretty good run-stopping linebacker as well.
But just like Indiana, though, Indiana had a bad rushing game, and they didn't have to run the ball.
It did,
because they just threw the ball all over us. And same thing with Purdue. They know they're bad at running. They don't run the ball.
Yeah, they pass
60.5% of the time they pass the ball, which is 4th most in the country. They don't care that they're bad at
dude.
Yeah. They know they're bad at running, and they just throw the ball. They say, screw it, we ain't running the ball. We're throwing this thing, even with the backup quarterback in. And so expect our secondary to be tested. Expect our outside linebackers to be tested in the flats and have another game where we're going to have to be running out there and trying to make tackles in open field. Whoop-de-doo. We're so excited to watch that, right? That's why I'm a little nervous about the game on the road when we're definitely more likely to turn the ball over in a game like this. I don't know. I'm still a little nervous.
Yeah. Again, and their defense, it's not great either, like Indiana's defense. We're going to be able to score some points. They run a 4-3 not as good as Indiana's. There's no really stats that make you go, wow, they're actually pretty good or something, or pretty bad at anything. There's kind of middle of the road. They're soft enough where we're going to be able to score points on them. Again, they're allowing like 29 points a game. We're going to be able to find some holes with whichever quarterback's going to start. Apparently, Adrian has said he expects to get the start because, as we know, that Vedral and McCaffrey got a little banged up in the last game, which will be really interesting to talk about. I know Husker fans, we're pretty unsure which one.
Oh, man.
Which the quarterback conversation. We're going to talk about it next week more after we see Martinez.
Next week. If Martinez plays a bad game, there's going to be some controversy in Nebraska.
And for good, again, for good reason.
For all our sakes, I'm really hoping he plays a great game. I mean, man, I love Adrian Martinez. I want him to be a great player. I want him to be a legend in Nebraska football. He's got to come out and play this week, man. He's got to show it this week against a beatable
He's got to
defense.
Earn it, for sure.
And let's make something happen, man. I want to see it. I want to see the greatness again because I freaking love Adrian Martinez. I loved watching him last year, and I want to see him dominate this year. So hopefully that comes out against Purdue and makes it happen. Because
if not, man, Vedral's right on his heels.
I know.
And McCaffrey's right on his heels.
On his heels, yeah.
So
it's ridiculous.
Again, that's the fun thing about having a great quarterback room. All of them are competing. All of them want to be the starter. And, that's just going to breed excellence. And again, once, excellence breeds excellence. That good old saying, it's true. That iron sharpens iron thing. It's definitely working in our quarterback room. And you love to see it. If there's more of that in more positions in Nebraska football, we're going to be a very, very, very good football team in years to come. With that being said, Josh and I, we're going to make our predictions this week. And you know what? I predicted us to lose against Indiana, which pained me deeply. And I may or may not drinking my sorrows away at the bars after that game. But I think Nebraska flips the script this week and we come away with a win. If Adrian Martinez plays, I think that fire under his butt and the fire under the team's butt is nothing but good for our team. I think Adrian's going to love that pressure. I think that's going to make him play better. I think it's going to be more of a positive pressure, more of the unattainable Heisman stuff. This is a very attainable. You got a quarterback who plays really good below you. You need to play good. I think that's going to help him. I think our defense is going to be able to figure something out. I think, again, we're going to be able to figure something out with our linebackers, some sort of coverage. I don't know whether it's a nickel or dime coverage, some man. I don't know what we're going to figure out there. I think we're going to be able to get some turnovers this week because, again, that's what Frost's defense is all about. He wants turnovers. He doesn't care about yards, but it's all about the turnovers for him and our players making dynamic plays. And our defense really needs to get back to it. And I think they have a really good chance against Purdue this week, who's a super one-dimensional team with a backup quarterback. I think this is a very, very winnable game, and I think our offense looks good. So I'm flipping the script from last week. We lost 31-38. I'm saying we win this week 38-31. That's my prediction.
There's a few X factors in this game. It's going to come down to turnovers again. Like we talked about last game. I said in the predictions video, it's going to come down to like one turnover.
Yep.
And it sure did.
Vedral's,
it came down to Vedral's unfortunate fumble returned almost for a touchdown. Thank goodness he hustled and made the tackle to give us a chance on that drive.
That was pretty sweet.
Yeah, it was a cool play and definitely respect him for hustling to make that play. But, man, you cannot be fumbling the ball like that, homie. But at the end of the day, the turnovers
got to pick up that block, though.
I know. That's the thing. And, again, this week, Martinez on the road under Scott Frost with Martinez at quarterback.
Cough, cough.
There's been some problems. There's been turnovers, and it definitely scares me. It definitely scares me because on the road, Martinez has been turnover prone to say the least, and I'm definitely worried about that. Again, the linebackers. I don't trust our linebackers. I don't trust them one bit, not at all. I'm really, really nervous for the game. I don't think Purdue's a very good team. They're really one-dimensional. We can stop them defensively. I actually really think that we can play a pretty good defensive game, but I don't know if we're going to play that great of an offensive game, and I don't even know if it's going to be because of Martinez. It might just be because of the offensive line again. It's a show-up mentality still at this point. They played probably their best game of the year against Indiana, but I'm not sure if it's going to happen again. I just can't believe it until I see it a few weeks in a row. With all of those problems that we mentioned, I'm still pretty optimistic about this game because I have faith in the playmakers on our offense. I think we might have a few
Wan'Dale,
big plays,
JD.
enough big plays to make this game happen. I do think that Lamar Jackson and company might be able to force a turnover or two more like specifically the secondary, not the linebackers, but specifically the secondary, might be able to force a turnover or two to keep us in the game and give us a good chance to win, which is why I'm going to take us 31-28 in a close game on the road. It's going to be a tough one, and we're probably going to be sweating it out the whole time.
Good. Just the way it always is, isn't it? We can't have it easy. And usually we would be done at this point of the video.
I know.
But there's a little bonus time.
Bonus time. Bonus questions.
Yes. So we got some bonus questions. We picked 3 bonus questions we put up a community poll on the good old YouTube and asked some stuff that you wanted to see from us, guys. What are some things that you wanted answered?
Yeah. So Seahawks Swag asks, Seahawks suck, by the way. Unfortunate.
Oh, shot.
I know.
I love Russell Wilson.
He asks, what do you think Nebraska's chances are at making a bowl? Do you think we can compete against either Wisconsin or Iowa?
I still feel pretty confident. Obviously, that Indiana win, I would have been locked in 100%. We can pull out either Maryland or Purdue or, one of the either Wisconsin or Iowa. I'd be 99% sure. Now it really depends on. This is a huge game for our bowl eligibility because if we win this, it's win one of the next 3. I still feel good though. I think we can win this. So I say there's about a 75% chance. Again, Backseat Sports has yet to cover a Nebraska bowl game. This is painful. So this is year 3, so we're really hoping. We want to talk about a Nebraska bowl game, guys.
We need something to talk about in December, guys. Please, Huskers, give it to us.
And Nebraska needs the extra practices, so we better freaking make a bowl.
Literally.
Someone with a yes.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I think it's pretty high chances that we make a bowl game against Wisconsin and Iowa. I think I'm more optimistic against those teams than a lot of people just because if we're going to beat a team, it's going to be a more to one-dimensional offense. I mean, I know we said that against Indiana, but specifically a running one-dimensional offense, we have a better chance against just because our linebacking core is just 10 times better at stopping the run than they are against the pass. I like our chances more against Iowa than Wisconsin just because Jonathan Taylor's an X factor. But either team, at least we have a shot against, but I'm not going to by any chance favor us in those games. We're probably going to be double-digit underdogs. Decent odds against either team compared to what most people think at this point.
If our team can put in the work to get a lot better in these next 3 weeks. I feel pretty good about the Iowa game. I think Wisconsin, Jonathan Taylor, we've seen what good backs will do against us. Reggie Corbin ripped off some big runs. J.K. Dobbins obviously ripped off some big runs.
We do have a bye going to the Wisconsin game.
Yeah, I mean, that's nice, but I don't know. I don't know about that one. But Iowa, again, they've had some offensive woes, which will be really good for us. Because we beat a team with offensive woes this year, being Northwestern. I think our offense again will be able to score against Iowa's defense. I think
hopefully
we just match up pretty decent. And again, if our team can put in the work, I feel pretty good about the Iowa game. The Wisconsin game, I still think we can, but I'm a little more nervous, like Josh said.
So Elijah Crittenden asks, Frost says he likes the coaches he's had, but do you see us getting new coaching in the coming years, or do you think we'll stick with our coaches we currently have? Personally, I think we'll at least see the same coaching staff probably next year. I mean, just saying what I think Frost will do. I don't think we're going to lose anybody going into next season. But if certain positions don't improve as much as we'd like to see going into next season, then I wouldn't be surprised if they get fired at the end of next year.
Josh and I have talked about it a lot this year, just how bad our special teams have been. And that's really what's concerned us by far the most is it just looks so sloppy. And we had that shanked punt this last game that cost us. I don't know. There was a big punting controversy we've kept with Armstrong and all the kicking stuff that's gone on. But not only just that kicking, but just the penalties, the offsides, the illegal formations, delay of game, just all that stuff really added up to our special teams being really poor. And if kicking returns too, they're given extra yards on kick returns, just kind of in every facet. And one thing that Tom Osborne was really great at special teams, and he said that's how he'd love to judge really good teams is by special teams. And
it only makes sense if you look at the best teams around the country in the NFL and in college football. Basically, all the best teams have incredible special teams.
Yeah. And
it only kind of makes sense because the guys who play special teams are generally your backups, your second and third string guys. And if they're well-disciplined and athletic, as second and third stringers, they're going to come in as upperclassmen and be really good starting players. And so a good program generally has good special teams. And that's probably not the best sign for Nebraska right now. And it's pretty telling as a team where we are right now.
For sure. And then Joe Reeves asks, what do you guys need to see to affirm the defense is headed in the right direction? We need to see a lot, I think, from the linebackers especially, and just some stuff from the defensive line. There was a lot of hype going in this year about our D-line being good and being veteran. But I've kind of seen this before on multiple levels where a team is pretty confident in a position, but then ends up getting burned. I've seen this on a lot of levels where people are really excited because they have experience that's going to make them a really good team, and that's not really always the case, as we've seen for Nebraska this year. Some of our best players are younger guys. Experience does not mean excellence, and experience does not mean good by any means. You gotta put in the work in and get better every year, and just because you've played in some games doesn't mean that you're great. So I need to see that improvement on the defensive line, but especially linebackers. Our linebackers have been bad these last couple of years. We have seen our secondary improve, so that looks like it's been heading in a better direction.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And our defense statistically has moved up numbers wise and been a little bit better than we have. Obviously the Mike Riley area was terrible, and now we're still really bad. It's slowly working its way down, but the linebacking core and the defensive line needs to improve a lot.
No, that's the thing. I think for me to feel really good about it, it's the linebackers, of course. Specifically Will Honus and Colin Miller. We need to see some big time improvement from them in these last few games going into next season. Well, yeah, Caleb Tanner. I mean, he's young. He hasn't seen the field as much.
Can we put JoJo Domann at outside linebacker? I'm just saying, please.
Yeah, I'd love to see more JoJo for sure at outside linebacker.
I don't need him at nickel. Just put him at outside linebacker. Just let him be like Luke Gifford and just mess stuff up.
For sure. And I think Garrett Nelson as well. I'd like to see more of him this year to see what he can do.
He's pretty hyped. He's pretty hyped, so
he definitely gets hyped. Yeah. I mean, that's for sure. He gives some nice, good, billboard material for Nebraska while he's throwing the bones or whatever.
Yeah, no, just that, and all the coaches, they praise the heck out of him. So I just want to see more of it on the field for sure from him. But yes. So we really appreciate you guys' questions. Let us know what you think about that segment. Should we do it more often? I thought it was pretty fun, and it was a really good idea on Josh's end. But as always, we love to hear what you guys have to say. How are you guys feeling about the Purdue game? Do you think we're going to win this one? Do you think we're going to lose?
Yeah.
How are you guys feeling about a bowl game at this point? Are you guys a little shaky, feeling like we're going to do it this season? Love to hear you guys on Facebook, on Twitter. Obviously, in the comment section below we would like to see you guys most as well. So, yeah, the huge. And as always, I'm Caleb. That's Josh. This has been Backseat Sports, and we'll see you next video.
See ya.